I never imagined that the lavish corridors of my ancestral mansion, filled with priceless art, antique furniture, and the soft murmur of secrets whispered by generations past, would one day become the stage for a betrayal so profound that it nearly shattered my world. Each ornate frame that hung on the walls seemed to hold reflections of our family's illustrious history, contrasting sharply with the dark revelations that lay ahead. My name is Isabella Montrose, heiress to a fortune cultivated over generations, a legacy steeped in elegance and pride, and it is from the depths of my heart that I recount the harrowing tale of how the man I once adored, Damien Leclerc, revealed himself to be nothing more than a cunning charlatan, his charming facade a mere veil over his duplicitous intentions. With the help of an unlikely ally, my childhood friend and astute confidant, Eliza, who possessed a knack for unraveling webs of deceit, I not only reclaimed my dignity, but also safeguarded my family's legacy from his insidious grasp. Together, we embarked on a treacherous journey through a labyrinth of lies and deception, navigating the treacherous waters of betrayal that threatened to plunge not just my heart, but our centuries-old lineage into despair. As I stared at the once comforting portraits of my ancestors, I realized that this showdown would not only test my resolve, but also redefine the very essence of what it meant to carry the Montrose name. Life within the opulent walls of my ancestral estate had always resembled a glamorous labyrinth, a dizzying array of charity galas, elite gatherings, and extravagant parties held amidst the shimmering chandeliers and ornate decor of our grand residence. Each event was a meticulously crafted spectacle, filled with the laughter of the city's elite, the strains of a live string quartet, and the intoxicating aroma of gourmet delicacies wafting through the air. It was during one of these lavish soirees, as the evening air shimmered with laughter and the clinking of crystal glasses, that I first encountered Damien Leclerc. He materialized in a tailored suit that hugged his athletic frame, an image of elegance and poise, while the soft glow of candlelight seemed to dance upon his chiseled features. With his flawless exterior, impeccable manners, and dazzling smile, he seemed to possess an irresistible allure that captivated everyone around him. The guests spoke of him in hushed, reverent tones, weaving tales of his enchanting travels and business acumen, as if he were a prince descended from a fairy tale. I, too, found myself enchanted by the spell he wove, captivated by the way he effortlessly navigated through the crowd, drawing all eyes toward him like a moth to a flame. Damien's deep, soulful eyes concealed a magnetic charm that beckoned to my curiosity, suggesting layers of depth beneath his polished veneer, a perfect counterpoint to my posh, insular existence that often felt more like a gilded cage than a sanctuary. I was beguiled by his stories, where adventure met sophistication, and for the first time, I felt like I could step beyond the confines of my carefully constructed world. Little did I know then that behind that exquisite facade lay a cold and calculating mind, meticulously plotting to claim not just my heart, but my wealth, entangling me in a web of treachery that would soon threaten to unravel everything I held dear. The intoxicating allure of his company began to blind me to the warning signs he inadvertently left in his wake. A fleeting look, a curious question, an offhand remark that hinted at the darker intentions cloaked beneath his charming exterior. As I leaned in, blissfully unaware, the threads of our fates intertwined, setting the stage for a clash of desire and betrayal that would test the very foundations of my family's legacy. In the weeks that followed, Damien swept me into a whirlwind of romance that felt intoxicatingly real, yet frighteningly elusive. He would arrive at my estate like a gust of wind, his presence filling the grand hall with the scent of expensive cologne and fresh flowers, creating an atmosphere that felt both luxurious and dangerously enchanting. His laughter echoed off the marble walls, transforming mundane conversations into sparkling exchanges that seemed to shimmer with possibility. My family, captivated by his charisma and charm, spoke of marriage and futures woven together, their eyes sparkling with dreams of heirs and legacies, blissfully oblivious to the subtle hints of something darker that danced just outside my awareness, like shadows lurking at dusk. Each stolen moment we shared felt precious, like shards of glass glittering in the sunlight. But as I reveled in the joys of our budding romance, I couldn't shake the inkling that the lightness of our shared laughter masked something far heavier buried beneath the surface. As I grew closer to him, I found myself unraveling the threads of his mysterious past. But each discovery was like reaching for a mirage, a world just out of grasp. His stories ebbed and flowed like the tide, punctuated by vague references to his family lineage and a troubled childhood that seemed to cling to him like a persistent fog. The more I learned, the more the allure of the perfect gentleman began to tarnish. The gleam of his polished exterior started to dull as it became apparent that the disparity between my gilded existence and his enigmatic history was not just striking, but perhaps insurmountable. I found myself stepping hesitantly along the precipice of trust, torn between the thrill of his ambition and the creeping realization that his aspirations, often fervently echoed during our late-night talks, curiously aligned with my own family's fortunes. It was a seductive dance of shared dreams. Yet as the chords of our connection deepened, I could not shake the feeling that I was the unwitting juggernaut in a carefully orchestrated play where the stakes were higher than I could have ever imagined. One balmy evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and violet, Damien suggested a midnight stroll through the estate grounds, the garden, illuminated by twinkling fairy lights that seemed to dance in the soft breeze, held a potential that felt both magical and foreboding, like an intricate dream woven into reality. With each step we took along the cobblestone path, the sweet scent of blooming jasmine filled the air, wrapping around us like an intimate embrace. Under the pretext of romance, he skillfully maneuvered our conversations toward the inheritance I was destined to inherit. The luxurious estate filled with echoes of my ancestors' laughter, the sprawling accounts that offered whispers of old family secrets, and the tantalizing investments that my family had nurtured for generations, each one a thread in the rich tapestry of our legacy. As I stood there, mesmerized by both the beauty surrounding us and the intensity with which he spoke, I caught my breath. I realized how deftly he threaded our conversations into a tapestry that revealed more than mere affection. It was as though he was mapping out an intricate plan, revealing desires and ambitions I had never fully acknowledged. The very real foundation of my life began to shimmer with a new light, and I found myself teetering on the edge of a precipice, drawn in by the allure of his words. Despite the nagging doubts that whispered in my mind, persistent as the nightingale's song, I succumbed to the shimmer of his affection, charmed by the promise that danced in his eyes. Yet, the more I fell for him, the more I recognized the intricacies of his charm veiling an undercurrent of desperation beneath it all. It felt as if each sweetly spoken word carried the weight of something unspoken, an urgency that sought something from me, something I wasn't sure I was ready to give. And in the depths of my heart, a seed of caution bloomed, its roots entwined with thoughts of what or whom I might truly be inviting into my life. His intentions seemed muddied like the twilight sky above us, laden with uncertainties as I searched his face for the answers hidden behind that charming smile. Yet all I found were reflections of my own fears. What if I was merely a pawn in his larger game? What if his alluring mask concealed a ruthless ambition that sought to devour the very heritage I held dear? This dance of deception unfurled slowly under the surface, threading itself into the very fabric of my life like an intricate tapestry, woven with both vibrant colors and dark undertones. The craft of illusion was celebrated in grand halls, but I could feel it coiling around me like vines, tightening their grip with every passing day. Fantasies began to blend with all too real nightmares, shadows of doubt creeping in uninvited, their presence dark and pervasive, lingering like a storm cloud on the horizon. Threatening to burst at any moment, each polite smile exchanged at lavish gatherings or flirtatious remark served only to deepen my confusion. The laughter echoing around me rang hollow, masking the turmoil that brewed within. The sumptuous banquets, adorned with gleaming chandeliers and delicate crystalline glasses filled with nectar, felt more like elaborate stages than genuine celebrations, amplifying the eerie dissonance between appearances and reality. Despite the glamorous soirees that continued to engulf our days, a haunting question loomed large, casting a merciless shadow over every sparkling moment. Were his intentions as noble as they appeared, or was my heart simply the first prize in this perilous game of wealth and seduction? The vibrant jewels that adorned his cuffs sparkled enticingly, catching the soft light in a dazzling display that was hard to resist. Yet I couldn't help but wonder if they were merely bait, carefully placed to lure me deeper into a labyrinthine plot where I might emerge empty-handed, lost within the glitzy facade that surrounded us. My instincts, once a guiding compass, now felt like whispers drowned out by the symphony of seduction. Each stolen glance was a siren song, pulling me toward the rocks of uncertainty, while the truth lay submerged, waiting patiently to be unearthed amidst the ruins of my trust. I still recall the initial spark, the way his eyes lit up with admiration as he listened to me recount the intricate history of the mansion during one of our early encounters at a secluded garden party. Surrounded by flowering vines and the sweet scent of blooming jasmine that wafted through the air like a soothing melody. The warmth of the late afternoon sun cast a golden glow, gilding everything in an ethereal light. And as I spoke, his focus became a captivating force, drawing me in like a moth to a flame. As if I were the only person in a bustling world, each compliment he offered felt like a gentle caress, lavish and intoxicating, each word carefully crafted with a finesse that heightened my sense of allure and lingered in the air between us like a secret waiting to be whispered. It was more than just the flattery, it was the uncanny attention to detail that took my breath away. How he hung on to every phrase, how his brow furrowed in genuine contemplation during my recounting of tragic stories associated with the estate, and how he chuckled at my lighter anecdotes with a sincerity that promised an understanding deeper than mere surface-level engagement. He seemed to absorb every word I uttered, every laugh that escaped my lips, as if he were not merely listening but committing these moments to memory, cherishing them as treasures. Damien's presence filled my days with a heady mixture of romance and mystery, juxtaposed against the lush backdrop of the garden, creating an atmosphere that was both intoxicating and surreal, as if we were characters in a fairy tale spun from gilded thread. It was as if fate had effortlessly entwined our lives, weaving a tale so enchanting that I found myself falling deeper into the spell he had cast. With every interaction feeling like an elaborate dance designed to enthrall, I allowed myself to be swept away by the illusion of his unwavering devotion, convinced that I had, at long last, met a man worthy of sharing not only my affection, but also the dreams I had long withheld. Visions of a future painted with promise, where our lives became harmonized notes in a beautiful symphony of shared aspirations. Yet beneath the sparkling surface of our burgeoning relationship, there remained an uncharted territory, a murky depth that teased at the edges of my heart and mind, urging me to tread carefully, even as I reveled in the magic of the moment. Yet, behind the satin curtains of our burgeoning relationship, the flickering shadows of Damien's true intentions lurked ominously. There were subtle hints, like fleeting whispers on a breeze, that lingered just beneath the surface. The hushed phone calls that would abruptly end the moment I entered the room, as if my presence was a spell that shattered his carefully woven tapestry of deception. The enigmatic meetings he had, often taking place in the dimly lit corners of upscale cafes, where the air was thick with unspoken secrets, felt furtive and clandestine, tinged with a sense of urgency, as though he were engaged in negotiations that had nothing to do with the heart. As he spoke about our future together, the words dripped with a peculiar intensity, igniting an unsettling fire in my gut that I chose to ignore, convinced that it was just a trace of his complicated past surfacing. A past that molded him into the charming enigma I so desperately found captivating. My heart, intoxicated by the seductive allure of his duplicitous facade, was captivated by the allure of his mystery, not realizing that I was dancing on the edge of a precipice with every fluttering heartbeat. I naively dismissed those quirks, chalking them up to the complexities of a man who had navigated storms far beyond my understanding. I told myself that these moments of shadowy suspicion gave him depth, that they were merely the fragments of a life he was willing to share with me, a mosaic that still required completion. But in doing so, I turned a blind eye to the red flags that waved like warning banners in the periphery of my consciousness, each one a cautionary tale, a beacon of truth that would one day unravel the very fabric of my illusions and shatter the delicate glass of my heart. Amidst the gilded opulence of my daily life, where the clink of crystal glasses and the laughter of elite company filled the air like a symphony of indulgence, there existed another presence, a quiet, observant soul who had faithfully served my family for years, almost like an unseen anchor to the turbulent waters of our extravagant existence. Her name was Nina, my dedicated maid, who moved silently through the estate like a shadow, her every step imbued with a grace that belied her humble position. With her rich ebony skin that glistened like polished mahogany, and eyes that seemed to hold centuries of wisdom and untold stories, she embodied a legacy of resilience and strength that resonated deeply in a world often blinded by superficial glamour. Nina was far more than just a servant. She was a silent guardian, a trusted confidant who, in her gentle yet perceptive manner, possessed an uncanny ability to see beyond the carefully constructed facades that everyone else so eagerly clung to, like lifelines in a storm. It was this keen insight that allowed her to catch sight of the undercurrents swirling around Damien long before I could even grasp the magnitude of his betrayal. As I danced on air, intoxicated by the sweetness of his compliments and the thrill of his presence, Nina remained a vigilant observer, her perceptive gaze never wavering from the tumultuous dynamics unfolding around me. It began, almost imperceptibly, with the whispered warnings of a tempest hidden beneath calm waters. Delivered in the serene yet urgent cadence of her soulful voice, "Miss Isabella," she would say softly, her hands deftly polishing the intricate designs on the marble floors of the drawing room, each movement a deliberate distraction from the swirling chaos she sensed was brewing. You must not let someone's sweet words cloud your judgment. Appearances can deceive even those with the kindest of hearts. Trust, once broken, can create rifts that not even the purest of intentions can mend. Her words, though softly spoken, carried an undercurrent of experience and caution, as if warning me of an invisible snare that could ensnare my tender heart, urging me to see the reality that lay just beyond the shimmering veneer of my romantic dreams. I was often charmed by her wisdom, yet I dismissed these words as the cautionary mutterings of someone who perhaps understood little of modern romance and the intoxicating allure of love. I assured myself that Nina was simply concerned for my well-being and protective of my heart, an endearing quality I cherished but did not fully appreciate. Little did I realize that her instincts had been honed through years of witnessing the darker underbelly of human ambition and betrayal, a world in which I was blissfully naive. Her cryptic warnings echoed in the corridors of my mind, yet I brushed them aside, too captivated by the glamorous life that enveloped me to see the impending storm that lurked just beyond the horizon. In my youthful exuberance, I was entranced by the romantic notions of love that filled my mind. The grand gestures, passionate confessions, and electric chemistry seemed to promise an endless bliss. I saw love as an adventure, a journey without limits, full of possibility and wonder. However, the price of being enveloped in such daydreams was my inability to see the subtle signs woven into the fabric of reality, a reality that Nina understood all too well. She had seen how easily trust could be shattered, how relationships built on illusions crumbled under the weight of hidden truths. Each time she spoke, her voice carried a heaviness, a gravity that was a stark contrast to the lighthearted banter that often surrounded us. But in my heart, I believed that love could conquer all, an ideal that felt both liberating and naive. Yet as I ventured deeper into this intoxicating romance, it became increasingly clear that the world I was stepping into was not painted in the soft hues I had imagined. There were shadows lurking behind every charming smile, whispers of secrets veiled by tender words, and the kind of ambition that gnawed at the edges of relationships, threatening to unravel the very threads that bound us. Nina's warnings persisted, weaving through my thoughts like a haunting melody. But in that moment, high on the sweetness of love, I refused to let her concerns pen the boundaries of my heart. I was determined to embrace the enchantment, to dive headfirst into the depths of a passion that seemed unassailable. Even as ominous clouds began to gather, far off, on the horizon of my fairy tale, the first sign that something was amiss came on a rainy autumn afternoon, when the sky was draped in a shroud of gray and the air was thick with the scent of damp earth. As I rummaged through one of Damien's suitcases, a discarded envelope caught my eye. It was stuffed with bank documents, their edges frayed, as though they had been hastily shoved aside in his last-minute packing. Intrigued and alarmed, I carefully pulled the papers out and began to sift through them, heart racing with each page I turned. What unfolded was not merely a collection of personal financial records. It revealed cryptic notes and elaborate amendments that hinted at a far more alarming agenda than simple financial planning. Damien had been secretly orchestrating a series of legal maneuvers that were shockingly sophisticated, devised to siphon key assets of the Montrose fortune into accounts under his control. Each document I examined unveiled his devious brilliance. He had meticulously forged signatures on pivotal agreements, manipulated trust funds, and engineered elaborate scenarios that, on the surface, seemed innocuous but were insidiously devised to ensure that his eventual marriage to me would serve as the final key to unlock the vast treasure trove of my inheritance. It was a plot that astounded me with its diabolical ingenuity, casting a shadow over every moment we had shared. A cold shiver raced down my spine as the horrifying truth began to unfold before me, wrapping around my heart like an icy fist. Every tender moment we had shared suddenly took on a sinister tint. Memories that had once brought me joy now felt tainted by betrayal. How could someone who had seemingly adored me be so methodical in plotting my financial ruin, all while wearing the mask of love? Distraught, I turned to Nina, a woman whose quiet strength had often been my solace during tumultuous times. Her loyalty was a beacon I had come to trust, and I knew she would understand the gravity of my discovery. With a determined glint in her eyes that filled me with both hope and resolve, Nina refused to let this betrayal go unchallenged. "Miss Isabella," she admonished gently yet firmly, "you need to gather the truth, and fast. I have seen things that I believe may help you. There is more to Damien than what meets the eye, and we must uncover it before it's too late." With Nina at my side, we began to devise a plan, our whispers mixing with the sound of the rain drumming steadily against the window. The walls of my once safe haven now felt like they were closing in, but the urgency propelled us forward. We need to dig deeper, Nina insisted, tapping the edge of the table thoughtfully. Damien's not just any man, you know that as well as I do. He's been involved in things that most would dare not touch. Nina's words stirred something within me. I recalled the late-night conversations where Damien's sharp wit had brushed against topics of power and influence, philosophy intertwining with ambition. It had been intoxicating. His tales of the business world steeped in a charisma that had drawn me in. Now, as I scrutinized the documents, those tales morphed into an unsettling narrative woven with deception and greed. There's a meeting coming up, Nina continued. I heard Damien mention it in passing. A gathering of investors he's trying to impress. If we could find a way to attend, it could unveil a lot about his dealings. The notion sent a rush of adrenaline through my veins. This could be my chance, the very opportunity needed to confront him with undeniable evidence. We spent the next few days in a whirlwind of preparation. I crafted a new persona, one that could charm and disarm in equal measure. My fingers flew over the keyboard, creating a false identity that would allow us access into Damien's world. We practiced our roles in front of the mirror, perfecting our accents and mannerisms, all while the shadows of doubt loomed in my mind like dark clouds refusing to pass. Did I truly have what it took to confront the man I once thought I knew? The night of the mating arrived, draped in an electric tension that felt almost palpable. Dressed in a sleek black gown and wearing a facade of confidence, I stepped into the lavish venue where crystal chandeliers hung like trapped stars from the ceiling. The room was filled with industry moguls, their laughter echoing sadly as I navigated through the crowd, seeking out the one person who had ensnared my heart yet threatened my very existence. As I scanned the room, my eyes finally landed on Damien, his charming smile lighting up the space around him, yet his presence radiating a power that felt all too threatening. My heart raced as I approached, with Nina subtly blending into the background, her watchful eyes scanning everyone and everything around us. Isabella, there you are, Damien exclaimed, a hint of genuine surprise coloring his voice. I didn't think you could make it to this little shindig. The warmth in his tone sent a familiar ache through my chest. But I steeled my resolve, remembering the documents that had opened my eyes to his carefully spun web of deceit. I wouldn't miss it for the world, I replied, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach my eyes. I engaged him in casual conversation, my heart thudding as I feigned interest, testing the waters for any sign of the machinations I had unearthed. As we spoke, snippets of his plans slipped through, phrases that danced dangerously close to treachery. I exchanged glances with Nina, who was stationed strategically at the edge of the room, ready to signal if things went awry. I could feel the tension building, the weight of decisions not yet made pressing down on me like the very gray clouds outside. Just as I began to wonder if our investigation would yield fruit, a man approached us, a sharply dressed individual, his presence magnetic. Damien, he called out, clapping my supposed fiancé on the shoulder. Heard you've orchestrated some impressive moves. The investors are thrilled. The slight edge in his tone sent a shiver down my spine. The stakes were far higher than I had imagined. At that moment, my world pivoted. This was not just about me. This was a larger game at play, and I was merely a pawn. I could feel the foundations of my reality shaking beneath me. It was time to reclaim my power before it was too late, before Damien could pull me deeper into his dark schemes. But how could I proceed without tipping my hand? The answer danced tantalizingly on the edge of my consciousness as I maintained my facade, every heartbeat echoing the urgency of the truth that lay hidden within the shadows of my beloved's heart. It was then that Nina embarked. On a covert investigation of her own, fueled by a fierce determination to unearth the truths that lingered beneath the surface of deception. Ever resourceful and unyielding, she transformed herself into a specter in our world of high society, deftly shadowing Damien's movements on days when our schedules diverged, blending into the very fabric of the events we so often attended. I watched in awe as she effortlessly melded with the crowd, donning the guise of a mere guest while astutely deciphering the intricate web of conversations, scrutinizing every laugh that rang hollow and every whispered exchange that hinted at deeper secrets. With the precision of a seasoned detective, Nina expertly navigated opulent corridors, a phantom lurking within gilded frames, eavesdropping on phone calls, and capturing snippets of dialogue that hinted at clandestine meetings with unscrupulous figures, men whose names conjured nightmares even among the richest elite. Late one evening, as I sat brooding in my study, nursing a cup of chamomile tea that did little to calm my racing heart, the door creaked open, and Nina slipped into the room, a discreet envelope clutched tightly in her hand as if it were a vital lifeline. Miss Isabella, she breathed, her voice barely above a whisper. Laced with urgency, there is evidence that Damien is meeting with individuals from a notorious financial syndicate, people steeped in shadows and scandal. My stomach dropped as she continued. I managed to overhear a conversation where he mentioned the final piece and the transfer of my mistress's accounts to secure his prize. The revelation struck like a thunderclap. The shock was nearly too immense to bear. A weight too heavy to lift from my chest. My pulse pounded in my ears, a deafening drumbeat underscoring the impending chaos. And tears welled in my eyes as the full extent of Damien's treachery became undeniable. The betrayal of everything I held dear crystallizing before me in that moment of stark clarity. I recall that moment as the inception of my resolve to confront the man who had betrayed not only my trust, but also the sanctity of my family's legacy. It was as though a veil had been lifted, revealing the murky waters beneath the surface of our lives. I could no longer ignore the betrayal that twisted my heart. I spent countless sleepless nights poring over the documents Nina had risked so much to obtain, each line echoing with weighty implications. Time merged into a blur as I cross-referenced dates, signatures, and bank statements, the faint scratching of my quill punctuating the stillness of the night. Each piece of evidence emerged as a solitary brick in the dam, slowly restraining the torrential tide of deceit that had been gathering behind Damien's charming smile. A facade that had lulled not only me but my entire family into complacency. In the solitude of my study, surrounded by the stoic faces embodied in the portraits of my ancestors, I felt their timeless gaze urging me forward. It was then I vowed, with a heart steeled by the righteousness of my cause, to bring his villainous plot to light. I envisioned not just the exposure of his treachery, but also the reclamation of what was rightfully mine. My dignity, my family's honor, and the future untainted by his malevolence. I knew this was not merely a fight for justice. It was a battle for the soul of my lineage, a defensive stand against the encroaching shadows that sought to obliterate everything we had built over generations. Each night, the candles cast flickering shadows that danced along the walls, mirroring the fight within me. A relentless surge of determination ready to confront the darkness that Damien symbolized. Deniable evidence and bolstered by Nina's unwavering support, I began to devise a plan that would expose Damien's true nature once and for all. Drawing on the many years of social events and high-stakes gatherings at my estate, I orchestrated a grand masquerade ball, a dazzling affair that lured everyone from society's upper echelons into an intricate web of glittering disguise and hidden intent. The opulent ballroom, adorned with exquisite chandeliers and gilded mirrors, teemed with guests in elaborate costumes, their laughter mingling with the strains of a live orchestra. I had planned this event down to the last detail. Every guest was carefully selected, including key figures from the banking sector, influential lawyers, and members of the city council. Among them, Damien had been invited without suspicion. His confidence radiated as he mingled with the crowd, his eyes glinting with the poise of a man who believed himself untouchable. As the clock neared midnight, I took to the stage with the calm determination of one who had unmasked the traitor in our midst. With a steady voice, I recounted the tale of how Damien had slowly maneuvered to seize control of my inheritance, his words laced with both sorrow and righteous fury. With each sentence, I revealed the meticulously compiled evidence, forged documents, secret financial transactions, and the damning recordings from the night Nina had risked everything to gather. The silence that befell the ballroom was deafening. Eyes shifted uneasily from one another as murmurs of shock and betrayal rippled through the crowd. In a dramatic climax, I invited Damien to step forward and explain himself. His handsome features contorted momentarily as a flicker of panic crossed his otherwise impeccable countenance. At first, he attempted to feign ignorance and then feigned comedic disbelief at being accused. But as more evidence was paraded before the astonished audience, his carefully constructed mask began to crumble. In that fateful moment, surrounded by the glittering eyes of society and the uneasy hush of shock, Damien's true self was laid bare for all to see. The vivacious laughter and cleverly woven tales that once filled the air seemed to evaporate, replaced by a heavy, suffocating tension that hung like a cloud over the gathering. No longer could his charming smile, once a potent weapon in his arsenal of deception, shield him from the scrutiny of those who had adored him. His supposedly adoring glances, which had seduced so many into his web of lies, now felt like daggers of betrayal. Even the impeccable sartorial choices that had earned him compliments from even the most discerning fashionistas became mere drapery over the malignant intentions that had driven him to such treachery. As the guests absorbed the unfolding drama before them, they exchanged looks of horror and sympathy, their expressions morphing from disbelief to dread. Whispers cascaded through the assembled crowd like ripples on a still pond, punctuated by gasps of disbelief. How could this be? And it must be a misunderstanding. echoed in the corners, where skeptics lingered, unwilling to fully accept the dark reality emerging before them. Eyes widened, brows furrowed. It was as if the very air had thickened with the weight of treachery. The final blow came when one of the influential bankers, whose presence had once signified trust and stability, stepped forward. His reputation as an astute observer of the financial landscape had been duly noted. And now, as he spoke, his voice rang with authority. He meticulously detailed the series of transactions that Damien had orchestrated, an elaborate symphony of deception that had been conducted with chilling precision. The plan was both intricate and thorough. Meticulously crafted over time, his scheme had involved creating an elaborate web of fake accounts, each one cleverly designed to obscure the truth, altering legal documents in secret like a master forger, and even coercing a few minor acquaintances into signing over power of attorney under questionable circumstances, all for a marginal fee that no one would suspect. With each revelation, the air crackled with tension, and it was undeniable. Damien's actions were deliberate, and the evidence laid before us painted a damning portrait of betrayal. It became abundantly clear that he had intended nothing less than to strip me of my identity and wealth, erasing my very existence while he crafted a new narrative, one where he emerged victorious at my expense. The audience was riveted, horrified at the depths of depravity they were witnessing, while I stood, stunned and grappling with the weight of betrayal, the pieces of my life unraveling before my very eyes. Damien's eyes darted around the room, scanning for an escape even as the weight of his betrayal pressed down on him. For a fleeting second, I swear I saw genuine terror flash behind those mesmerizing irises, an unexpected crack in his carefully crafted facade. It was as if the walls of our shared life were closing in on him, and his mind raced through the vivid images of all the lies he had spun like a finely woven tapestry. Yet, instead of owning up to the chaos he had orchestrated, he sputtered out a pathetic string of excuses and deflections, each more implausible than the last. His efforts to reframe the narrative fell flat, leaving only a bitter taste in the air. The chain of evidence against him was too strong, each link a testament to his deceit, leading back to the many moments we had shared that were now tainted. The truth had become an open wound that could not be ignored, festering in the light of day. With every accusation I hurled at him, the illusion was shattered, exposing the poisonous rot at its core, a treachery that had been masquerading as love. The room, once a sanctuary of shared dreams, now felt like a cold courtroom, where the betrayal laid bare the stark contrast between appearance and reality. I was left grappling with the realization that the person I had loved was nothing more than a mirage, crafted with expert precision to keep me blind to the darkness lurking just beneath the surface. In the days that followed, the scandal rocked not only my personal life, but also sent shockwaves through the elite circles to which we belonged, shattering the illusion of perfection that had long surrounded us. Headlines screamed of the heiress scandal in love, lies, and legacy, capturing the public's imagination and painting a vivid picture of betrayal that resonated far beyond the confines of our social strata. As gossip magazines eagerly delved into the intricacies of our once idyllic romance, whispers swirled in every corner of the high society social calendar, a dizzying blend of intrigue and outrage that compelled even the most stoic dinner hosts to quiet their conversations and lean in closer to hear the latest developments. Damien, once a charming figure gracing every gala and charity ball, was swiftly detained by the authorities, his impeccable facade reduced to a cautionary tale about the perils of unchecked ambition and greed. The investigation, bolstered by the incontrovertible evidence Nina had courageously gathered, left no doubt as to the extent of his machinations, revealing a tangled web of deceit intricately woven over years of deceitful charm. I underwent countless emotional trials during this harrowing period, moments of profound sorrow intermingled with bursts of steely resolve, as I wrestled with the betrayal and the shattered dreams of a future we had envisioned together. The parties that once felt jubilant now echoed with laughter that only deepened my sense of loss. Yet, throughout it all, Nina remained my steadfast ally. Her presence was a lifeline amidst the chaos. Without her vigilance and unyielding determination, the full scope of Damien's treachery might have remained forever concealed behind his disarming smile. Her actions not only protected me from a devastating financial betrayal, as she meticulously cataloged evidence and sought justice, but they also reaffirmed a truth I had almost forgotten: that true loyalty can often be found in the most unexpected of places. In those darkest hours, as I confronted the wreckage of my former life, the unwavering support of a true friend became my beacon of hope, illuminating a path forward amidst the rubble of my past. As the news cycle continued to unfold, I found myself grappling not only with my emotional turmoil, but also with the realities of public scrutiny. My phone buzzed incessantly with calls and messages, some well-meaning friends offering support, while others were mere onlookers, eager to glean more details of the unfolding drama. I learned quickly that my previously insulated world had become a stage, with my pain and struggles now scripted for the entertainment of the masses. Amidst this chaos, I resolved to reclaim my story, to turn the narrative away from one of victimhood into one of resilience. Determined to rise above the whispers and the paparazzi's relentless pursuit, I began to focus on rebuilding my life, block by block. Armed with the knowledge that I was not alone, I collaborated with Nina to establish a small foundation dedicated to helping victims of financial fraud and emotional abuse. Inspired by my experiences, we named it the Phoenix Project, a symbol of rebirth from the ashes of betrayal. As we rallied supporters from our community, my heart was reinvigorated by the stories of strength and survival shared by others, creating a tapestry of hope amidst shared woes. In the months that followed, as Damien faced the consequences of his actions and the once glamorized life we had built together faded away, I discovered a deep reservoir of courage within myself. Each time I stood before a crowd to speak about the Foundation's mission, I felt a sense of empowerment wash over me, a stark contrast to the feelings of helplessness that had once enveloped me. I began to view our history not as a source of shame, but as a powerful catalyst for change, taking control of my narrative and transforming my pain into purpose. Nina, too, thrived in this new chapter of our lives. As we shared the stage and the stories of our truth, her infectious spirit and compassion drew in advocates and allies from unexpected places. We received offers of assistance from influential figures in our community, and together we organized charity events to raise funds and awareness, turning our work into a movement that resonated far beyond our initial ambitions. One evening, as I gazed out over the sea of faces, each person united in the cause, an overwhelming sense of gratitude washed over me. The laughter we shared, the strength we found in the light of adversity, and the bonds we forged solidified a truth I had discovered. The depth of one's character often shines brightest in moments of trial. The foundation took flight, propelling me into a world of purpose, forever transformed by my experiences and the relentless love of a true friend. I was no longer merely the heiress left to pick up the pieces. I had become a beacon of hope for others, proving that out of betrayal can bloom a strength more brilliant than any illusion of perfection ever constructed. In the aftermath of Damien's downfall, as the legal proceedings unfolded and his assets were frozen pending further investigation, a crucial lesson etched itself into my soul. No matter how vast or glittering, could never purchase genuine love or trust. The tragic affair had almost cost me everything I held dear. A legacy meticulously built over generations, filled with family stories, cherished memories, and the hard-won respect of our community. More importantly, I grappled with the awakening realization that my own judgment had been clouded by infatuation, leaving not only my heart shattered, but also the very foundation of my identity shaken. Determined to emerge from this dark chapter, I embarked on the long, slow process of healing. It was a journey filled with introspection and the painful relinquishment of the naivety that had once defined me. As I began to rebuild not only my family's reputation, but also my own sense of self, I discovered the power of vulnerability and resilience. I threw myself into charitable endeavors and community projects, each initiative reminding me daily that love and compassion were infinitely more valuable than any material possession. Through volunteering at local shelters and supporting youth mentorship programs, I stumbled upon a profound sense of purpose, a renewed vigor that breathed life into my spirit. Surrounded by friends and family who showered me with unwavering support, I was able to reaffirm my belief that true wealth lies not in the opulence of home and hearth, but rather in the deep, abiding bonds we create and nurture. The laughter shared over coffee, the warmth of a hug on a difficult day, the collective sigh of relief during community gatherings. These moments soothed my wounded heart and restored my faith in humanity. I learned that healing was not merely about moving on, but about actively engaging with the world anew, with strength rooted in vulnerability and love untainted by past betrayals. Through this transformation, I emerged not just as a survivor, but as a beacon of hope for those navigating their own storms. As time passed, the scars of the past began to fade. Replaced by a growing sense of optimism and ambition, I sought to channel my experiences into a greater purpose, launching initiatives that not only uplifted our community, but also empowered the vulnerable voices that often went unheard. Each program I initiated was born from a desire to foster connection and understanding, creating safe spaces where individuals could come forward, share their stories, and find solace in collective strength. One particularly transformative project was a community storytelling festival. We invited residents from all walks of life to share their journeys, stories of hardship, resilience, joy, and love. The event blossomed beyond my expectations, transforming into a vibrant tapestry of narratives that showcased the human spirit's undeniable capacity for healing. Each tale echoed a reminder of the lessons I had learned, that vulnerability can illuminate paths to empathy, and that our shared experiences are what truly bind us together. With each passing day, I felt the weight of shame and regret lift as I redirected my focus towards nurturing the seeds of hope I had planted. I formed alliances with local schools, collaborating on educational programs that addressed not only academic growth, but emotional intelligence and mental health awareness. It became evident that the next generation needed tools not just for academic success, but for life, a chance to mold a future rich in compassion, respect, and the understanding that life's greatest luxuries are often found in the simplest of joys. Through this work, I also rediscovered joy in artistic expression, indulging in painting and writing as mediums to convey my thoughts and emotions. My art became a reflection of the myriad colors in my life, the dark blues of despair, the vibrant yellows of newfound joy, and the soothing greens of healing. Each stroke of my brush felt like a cathartic release, allowing me to process my feelings and, in turn, share them with others. The response was overwhelmingly positive, sparking conversations and encouraging others to explore their own creativity as a means of healing. As I stood under the starlit sky during one of the storytelling festivals, surrounded by the laughter of children and the warmth of community, I felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. I realized that though the path had been fraught with hardship, it had led me to a life rich in purpose and fulfillment. My commitment to uplifting others transformed not only my world, but also the lives of many who shared in this journey of growth and healing. Ultimately, I understood that we are all reflections of each other, and together, we have the capacity to foster a community where love, trust, and resilience reign supreme. Throughout this challenging ordeal, Nina's own investigation emerged as a testament to the unwavering strength and bravery that true loyalty demands. What began as mere quiet suspicion soon escalated into an intricate web of clandestine surveillance that engaged every fiber of her being. I recall vividly those late nights, marked by the quiet hum of the city outside, as she would stealthily slip out of the house, armed with nothing more than a small recorder, a notepad, and an ironclad resolve to unearth the truth. She took meticulous notes of every conversation Damien had during his private meetings, capturing not only the significant events, but also the trivial details that most would have dismissed as inconsequential. How he fiddled with his cufflinks when he was nervous, the way his gaze shifted when he felt cornered, and even the remarks made in jest that hinted at darker undertones. On one particularly humid night, a thick fog settled over the street as Nina followed Damien to an unmarked building tucked away in the outskirts of the city. The air was electric with tension as she hid in the shadows, heart pounding in her chest. There, she witnessed how he was greeted by individuals in tailored suits who exuded an air of menace, their every move calculated and deliberate. As they exchanged glances that held secrets and whispers that might unravel a facade, they spoke in hushed tones about clandestine deals and unseen consequences. The conversation focused on terms I would later come to understand as the final pieces of a conundrum that enabled his insidious financial usurpation. Each whispered word, each furtive glance, contributed another layer of evidence against him, affirming the treachery lurking under the surface of our seemingly perfect life. Nina returned from that night with a tumult of emotions. A mix of relief for having captured crucial details that would secure my protection, and a profound sorrow that someone so seemingly devoted to me could harbor such despicable intentions hidden in plain sight. In the days leading up to the masquerade ball, Nina's investigation reached its crescendo, her determination fueled by the weight of the truth that lay just beneath the surface. She had covertly obtained copies of emails that exposed a tangled web of deceit, each keystroke a testament to Damien's betrayal. With agile fingers, she navigated through digital correspondences that were once thought to be shrouded in secrecy. Her knack for persuasion had even led her to a reluctant courier, a man whose conscience eventually got the better of him, compelling him to divulge scanned images of incriminating documents that Damien had meticulously hidden among his grandiose possessions. Each fragment of evidence was assembled like pieces of a dark puzzle, illuminated not just by the harsh light of truth, but by the flickering shadows of lost trust and shattered illusions. When I finally laid the evidence before the gathered dignitaries at the ball, a charged silence enveloped the room, thick with disbelief and anticipation. The shock was palpable. Gasps echoed in the opulent hall, adorned with twinkling chandeliers and glimmering gowns, now tainted by the revelations unfolding before them. Each document, every recording, became not just a stroke of genius in exposing the elaborate scheme, but a stark reminder of the fragile nature of both love and loyalty. A scheme built on lies, deception, and the ruthless pursuit of wealth at any cost. I could see the flicker of remorse, albeit fleeting, in Damien's eyes as the truth sank in like a heavy anchor, dragging him down into the depths of his own making. His elaborate masquerade, once so meticulously devised, had crumbled before the watchful eyes of the elite. And as the guests exchanged incredulous whispers, the gravity of his misdeeds became indisputable. The facade he so carefully maintained shattered, leaving behind the cold, hard reality of his choices that had betrayed not only me, but the very foundations of trust he had once claimed to cherish. In the months that followed Damien's arrest, in the dismantling of his fraudulent empire, I found myself enveloped in a profound period of introspection. It was as though the chaotic whirlwind of deception that had consumed my life had at last settled, allowing me to sift through the remnants of what was left behind. As I sat in the quietude of my once lavish surroundings, now tinged with memories of betrayal, I took the time to reflect on what true love and trust really meant. The stark contrast between the glittering lure of wealth, once my refuge, and the emptiness of deceit became increasingly clear. I came to realize that while wealth could offer comfort and security, it could never replace the intangible magic of genuine affection and honesty. Damien's treachery was not just a betrayal of my fortune. It was a brutal violation of my heart and spirit. It taught me that even in a world so replete with luxury and opulence, the human spirit craves sincerity and authenticity above all else. A lesson that wound itself around my soul like a bittersweet vine. Amidst this journey of self-discovery, I also recognized the profound importance of surrounding ourselves with those who possess the courage to stand against injustice. Nina, with her quiet resilience and razor-sharp intuition, had emerged as an unsung heroine in my fight to reclaim my life. Her evolution from a silent observer, caught in the web of my tumultuous saga, to a courageous investigator, unafraid to confront the darkness, was emblematic of the unwavering strength within the human soul. I marveled at her determination, realizing that the true measure of one's character is often illustrated by the willingness to confront evil, regardless of the personal risks involved. In Nina, I found not just a friend, but a warrior who understood that the battle against corruption and betrayal is not fought alone. It thrives on solidarity and mutual support. Yet, my recovery was not instantaneous, nor was it devoid of moments when the shadows of betrayal threatened to engulf me like a suffocating fog. There were nights when doubt crept back in, whispering insidious fears that perhaps history would repeat itself. But as each day passed, and with each small victory I achieved, I began to find solace in the realization that justice, however delayed, ultimately prevails. The scandal that had once rocked the foundations of my world gradually receded into a cautionary legend, a story recounted at lavish society events and whispered among circles that had once idolized Damien's pristine facade. It became a testament not just to the fragility of trust, but also a reminder of the indomitable strength of the human spirit. My narrative, marked by resilience and transformation, began to weave itself into a new tapestry, one defined not by betrayal, but by the power of hope and renewal. As I embarked on this journey towards healing, I found myself drawn to the beauty of simplicity, a stark contrast to the opulence that had once defined my lifestyle. I started to seek solace in nature, taking long walks through the serene parks that peppered the city, where the gentle rustling of leaves and the sweet chirping of birds provided a refuge from the chaotic world of human ambition. It was during one of these walks that I stumbled upon a small, hidden garden, a sanctuary teeming with vibrant blooms and the intoxicating scent of jasmine. Here, I began to cultivate not just a fondness for the outdoors, but also a deeper connection to myself, a rekindling of self-love that had been long overshadowed by the allure of materialism. My newfound appreciation for the small joys in life led me to explore new passions. I enrolled in painting classes, rediscovering a love for art that had lain dormant for years. Each brushstroke became a form of therapy, a conduit through which I expressed the tumult of emotions swirling within me. The colors I chose spoke to my heart, dark hues that represented my past struggles gradually blending into brighter shades that signified hope and rebirth. This creative outlet not only healed wounds, but also offered me a clearer perspective. I learned to channel my experiences into something beautiful, transforming pain into art. Moreover, I recognized the importance of sharing my story with others. A newfound desire to connect with individuals who had faced their own adversities overcame me. I began volunteering at local organizations that supported victims of fraud and deceit. There, I found community among those who understood the burdens of betrayal and loss. It was a space where we could openly share our struggles and victories, fostering an environment of empathy and solidarity. I felt empowered as I listened to their stories and witnessed their resilience, reminding me that the human spirit can recover if given the right support. In the midst of this revitalization, I also found myself reflecting on the concept of forgiveness. Not just for Damien, but for myself as well. I realized that harboring resentment would only hinder my progress. By choosing to forgive, not to absolve him of his actions, but to release myself from the emotional shackles of anger, I began to feel lighter. This act of liberation was pivotal, allowing me to reclaim my narratives and my future, shaping a life that resonated with integrity and authenticity. As months turned into a year, my transformation deepened. I started to embrace new opportunities, both personally and professionally. I initiated a nonprofit aimed at educating young adults about the dangers of financial fraud, channeling my experience into a mission that sought to empower others. This endeavor became a beacon of hope, a reminder that even from the darkest circumstances, one could rise to make a difference in the world. With each workshop I conducted, I witnessed the spark of awareness igniting within my audience, a confirmation that the scars of my past were not in vain. Through it all, the bonds with the people I cherished grew stronger. Nina remained a steadfast ally, her unwavering support bolstering my endeavors as we forged ahead. Together, we navigated both the struggles and the triumphs, crafting a friendship that was built on trust, empathy, and shared purpose. It became evident that true wealth isn't measured by material possessions, but by the richness of our connections and the impact we have on each other. As I stood in front of a blank canvas one afternoon, reflecting on the journey I had undertaken, I realized the profound depth of my transformation. No longer was I the woman who once basked in superficial glamour. Instead, I had become a phoenix rising from the ashes of betrayal. My life was no longer defined by what had been taken from me, but rather by the strength I had cultivated and the love I had rediscovered, both for myself and for the world around me. It was a narrative of resilience, hope, and the unwavering belief in the power of genuine connection. One crisp winter evening, nearly a year after the masquerade ball, I invited several of my closest confidants to the mansion for what was presented as a celebration of new beginnings. A celebration not merely of personal triumphs over adversity, but of deeper bonds forged in the fires of hardship. The living room sparkled with the soft light of 1,000 candles, casting flickering shadows that danced delicately across the ornate walls. And the mood was one of quiet reflection, tinged with the potential of fresh possibilities. Friends gathered around, their laughter wrapping around us like a warm embrace, as we exchanged stories of the past year. Stories of courage in the face of betrayal and joy found in unexpected places. It was during this intimate gathering that the final chapter of Damien's treachery was written. As I stood to offer a toast, my heart swelled with a mixture of gratitude and lingering apprehension. I glanced around the room, absorbing the warmth radiating from those who had stood by my side. And then my gaze fell upon a figure lingering near the grand fireplace. A figure whose presence, even after all this time, stirred a complicated mix of regret and scorn within me. Damien, that silver-tongued architect of chaos, had been released on bail under dubious conditions that left many, including me, baffled. His charm, as enchanting as it was infuriating, had somehow granted him another chance in a system that was beginning to show signs of fracture under the weight of his misdeeds. However, fate had other plans. A calculated slip of the tongue during a casual conversation in the foyer, one that Nina had been discreetly recording, her face a mask of resolve, turned the tide once more. What began as small talk among friends quickly spiraled into a revelation that none of us saw coming. Damien, sensing a final opportunity to salvage his crumbling facade, inadvertently revealed the intricate details of his scheme to a group of influential guests. Their ears perked at the scent of scandal. His every word dripped with overconfidence, laden with the arrogance that had once captivated me. And in that moment, it was as if his carefully constructed mask of perfection melted away for all to see. The once deceptive veneer of a charming entrepreneur was stripped bare, exposing the manipulative undercurrents that had driven him all along. The silence that followed his revelations was deafening, each breath in the room echoing the weight of truth finally unleashed. The room fell silent once more. The murmurs of conversation replaced by an almost tangible tension that curled in the air like smoke from a dying fire. Guests exchanged furtive glances, shifting in their seats as they processed the unraveling spectacle before them. Eyes fixed upon him, Damien's facade, the gleaming mask he had worn so effortlessly, collapsed under the weight of his own hubris, revealing not just a man, but a fragile ego teetering on the brink of ruin. In that impromptu confession, every manipulation, every forged document, and every deceitful transaction was laid bare, each revelation cutting deeper than the last. There was no recanting, no retreat. Only the echoing truth that had already been sealed by the relentless investigation led by Nina, a formidable force who had pieced together the puzzle of his treachery with a meticulous resolve that few could match. It was her unwavering determination that had driven me to reclaim my destiny, galvanizing me to face the reality of our situation. I raised my glass in quiet triumph, not in celebration of his disgrace, but in honor of the resilience of the human spirit, the unyielding strength that surfaces in the wake of betrayal. It was a moment of profound awakening, a collective breath held in recognition of the journey we had all taken, where the greatest triumph was to find solace and empowerment after the storm. The conviction lingered in the room that one can rise above betrayal, and that love, when forged in truth, transcends the cold allure of wealth, like sunlight piercing through the thickest clouds. In that quiet moment, as Damien slumped against the wall, defeated and isolated, I felt an indescribable clarity, the realization that money, for all its power, could never command genuine love, trust, or respect. These were qualities far more valuable, buried beneath layers of deceit, now shining with undeniable brilliance before all gathered. It was a reminder that life's true riches were often cloaked in vulnerability, and that the heart's deepest connections prevailed long after the material world had crumbled around us. Today, as I look out over the meticulously manicured gardens of my mansion, each meticulously pruned rose and vibrant tulip, standing as a tribute to both my past achievements and the calm that now envelops my life, I cannot help but listen to the soft echoes of the past that reverberate through my memories. Those lush greens and vivid colors seem to whisper cautionary tales of love and betrayal, reminding me of the bitter lesson that Damien's treachery has indelibly etched into my heart. True love, as I have painfully learned through the trials and tribulations of the heart, is not measured by the size of one's bank account, adorned with countless zeros and hollow trophies, nor can it be tallied in the sum of wealth amassed over generations, filling vaults but leaving hearts empty. Instead, it reveals itself in the quiet moments of honesty, the gentle exchange of glances, the shared laughter over old memories, and the understanding that flourishes even in silence. It is found in the courageous acts of loyalty from those friends who stand by us in our darkest hours, illuminating the shadows with their unwavering support. Much like the sun breaking through storm clouds after a long and turbulent night, their steadfast presence serves as a reminder that true companionship often means more than grand gestures. It's rooted in the small acts of love that weave the fabric of our lives. It comforts me to know that despite the cruelty and avarice that lurk in some hearts, genuine love, coupled with justice and integrity, will always rise to the surface, proving that even amid the murkiest of waters, the purest of truths can emerge victorious, triumphing in the end over deceit and despair. Nina's efforts during that tumultuous period remain an enduring source of inspiration to me, a beacon of resilience that I strive to emulate every day. Her investigative journey, fraught with danger, tireless sacrifice, and an unwavering moral conviction, served not just as a pathway to uncovering deceit, but as a profound testament to the power of perseverance and truth in a world often muddied by lies. In moments of doubt, I find strength in her example, recalling the way she confronted adversity with unshakable resolve, often at great personal cost. I am reminded that every piece of information she risked her safety to uncover was not merely a story, but a lifeline tethered to the fates of those ensnared in deceit. I often find myself recalling her gentle encouragement. Miss Isabella, never let the glitter of false promises blind you to the light of genuine love. This simple yet profound wisdom has become a guiding principle in my life, reminding me that even in the most treacherous storms, a single act of courage can redefine the course of destiny, illuminating a path toward redemption and hope. It resonates deeply with the belief that behind every facade, there lies a truth waiting to be revealed. The real challenge often lies in summoning the courage to seek it. Nina's tenacity also teaches me that, much like the garden that flourishes with care and attention, our relationships need nurturing and truth in order to thrive amidst the chaos. The seeds of compassion, understanding, and honesty must be sown and cultivated, especially during periods of strife. In this way, every lesson learned enhances the tapestry of my life, woven with threads of both sorrow and joy, vibrant hues contrasting against the darker tones of adversity. Each experience enriches the fabric of my existence, encouraging me to seek out those glimmers of love and integrity that not only nourish my spirit, but also propel me forward on my journey, reminding me that hope can blossom even in the unlikeliest of gardens. Damien's name has since become synonymous with deceit, a cautionary tale that is recounted not only in hushed tones among the elite, but also as a stern lesson for anyone who harbors the illusion that affluence can be secured purely through charm and charisma. His once celebrated facade crumbled under the weight of his own betrayals, leaving behind whispers of distrust that permeate conversations in the drawing rooms and boardrooms alike. The narrative of his downfall serves as a stark reminder that beneath a glitzy exterior often lurk shadows of ambition untempered by integrity, compelling those in my circles to scrutinize the intentions wrapped in silken gold, revealing the true character hidden within. As I navigate this reclaimed life, I find strength in embracing vulnerability, a quality I once perceived as weakness, misguided by a world that often prioritizes bravado over authenticity. This significant shift in my perspective has birthed a newfound admiration for the raw honesty that accompanies being true to oneself, allowing me to perceive the world through a lens of clarity where I can discern the genuine from the fleeting. No longer tethered to past fears, I actively seek connections that resonate with my authentic self, fostering relationships that uplift rather than deplete. The ghosts of my past, particularly the scandals that once threatened to engulf me, have ultimately forged a brighter path ahead, unveiling lessons that are invaluable in the quest for fulfillment. And in this brave new world, I am equipped with the wisdom to resist the siren call of greed, unwavering as I cultivate my journey, not in pursuit of wealth alone, but in the relentless quest for a life rich in purpose and connection. I draw strength from the knowledge that true wealth is derived from the bonds we nurture and the legacies of kindness we build, which stand in stark contrast to that of deceit. In the quiet dawn of this new chapter, I no longer dwell on the betrayal that once threatened to obliterate my world. I have transformed the legacy of pain into a beacon of hope and resilience. My family's mansion, once a silent witness to treachery and deceit, now echoes with laughter, truth, and an enduring commitment to justice. The corridors that had harbored secrets now celebrate the victories of the human spirit. As for Damien, his meticulously polished exterior proved to be nothing more than a veneer, a brittle mask that crumbled under the weight of his ambition and duplicity. His downfall serves as a stark reminder that the heart's truth cannot be bought with wealth. No matter how vast, the justice meted out to him, and the public exposure of his crimes resonated far beyond the confines of my personal tragedy. It was a declaration that integrity must always prevail over greed. And so, I move forward with a heart that has been both broken and mended. I have learned that the most valuable treasures in life are not those sealed in bank vaults or hidden in legal documents, but those nurtured through compassion, loyalty, and unwavering courage. My story stands as a testament to the fact that even amidst the glitter of luxury and the false promises of affluence, true love and trust remain the most sacred of all riches. To anyone who finds themselves standing at the crossroads of love and money, I offer this truth. Treasure relationships built on honesty, and never allow yourself to be blinded by the superficial sheen of wealth. For at the end of every deceitful chapter, it is only the light of genuine affection that can guide you home. As I pen these final words, I think of Nina, my guardian angel in the guise of a humble maid, whose bravery not only safeguarded my future, but also reminded me that the best kind of love is won through truth and integrity. Her unwavering determination has forever altered the course of my life, and I remain eternally grateful for the day she chose to listen, observe, and act. In the glow of the setting sun over my estate, I now find solace in the knowledge that justice has been served, and the bitter legacy of betrayal has given way to a hopeful new beginning. Money may have the power to shape the world, but it can never purchase the priceless treasure of a genuine, unblemished heart. This is my story, the story of a wealthy heiress who, betrayed by a man of impeccable looks but corrupt intentions, learned that love is a tapestry woven with trust, loyalty, and the courage to confront betrayal. And it is a story that I hope inspires all who dare to seek truth in a world where appearances can be deceiving. I close this chapter with gratitude for the lessons learned and with hope for what lies ahead. May the light of truth always shine through the darkest of deceptions, and may the human heart remain forever untainted by the allure of wealth.